What is reality? Is it what we can see, sense and touch? The easy and most believable answer is obviously yes, that is exactly what reality is. But is there something deeper? Something more orchestrated going on just under the veil? Are we participants in a matrix of sorts? And is this life just another aspect of the universe's greatest illusion? One that points to the possibility that we are living in a simulation. The 1999 science fiction action film The Matrix, written and directed by Lana and Lily Wachowski, who were then credited as the Wachowski brothers, explored this possibility. The film starred Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, and Joe Pantoliano, and it led to 2 sequels which delved deeper down the rabbit hole. The Matrix depicts a dystopian future in which humanity is unknowingly trapped inside a simulated reality. This reality was created by artificial beings, thought-capable machines that would create scenarios to distract humans while using their bodies as an energy source. When computer programmer Thomas Anderson, under the hacker alias Neo, uncovers the truth, he is drawn into a rebellion against the machines along with other people who have been freed from the Matrix. The Wachowskis' approach to action scenes was influenced by Japanese animation and martial arts films, and the film's use of fight choreographers and wire-fu techniques from Hong Kong action cinema influenced subsequent Hollywood action film productions. The film is known for popularizing a visual effect known as bullet time, where the heightened perception of certain characters is represented by allowing the action within a shot to progress in slow motion while the camera appears to move through the scene at normal speed, allowing the sped-up movements of certain characters to be perceived normally. While some critics have praised the film for its handling of difficult subjects, others have said the deeper themes are largely overshadowed by its action scenes. The Matrix was first released in the United States on March 31st, 1999, and grossed over $460 million worldwide. It was well received by many critics and won 4 Academy Awards, as well as other accolades, including the Saturn Awards and the British Academy of Film and Television Arts Awards, or BAFTAs. The Matrix was praised for its innovative visual effects, cinematography, and entertainment value. The film has since appeared in lists of the greatest science fiction films, and was added to the National Film Registry for preservation in 2012. The success of the film led to the release of 2 feature film sequels in 2003, The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, which were also written and directed by the Wachowskis. The Matrix franchise was further expanded, with the Wachowskis being heavily involved, through the production of comic books, video games, and animated short films. The Matrix franchise has even inspired books and theories on some of the religious and philosophical ideas alluded to in the movies. It has been suggested by philosopher William Irwin that the idea of the Matrix, a generated reality invented by malicious machines, is an allusion to Descartes' first meditation and his idea of an evil demon. The meditation hypothesizes that the perceived world might be a comprehensive illusion created to deceive us. The same premise can be found in Hilary Putnam's brain in a vat scenario, proposed in the 1980s. A connection between the premise of the Matrix and Plato's allegory of the cave has also been suggested. The allegory is related to Plato's theory of forms, which holds that the true essence of an object is not what we perceive with our senses, but rather its quality, and that most people perceive only the shadow of the object, and are thus limited to false perception. The philosophy of Immanuel Kant has also been claimed as another influence on the film, and in particular how individuals within the Matrix interact with one another and with the system. Kant states in his Critique of Pure Reason that people come to know and explore our world through synthetic means, like language, and thus, this makes it rather difficult to discern truth from falsely perceived views. This means people are their own agents of deceit, and so, in order for them to know the truth, they must choose to openly pursue truth. This idea can be examined in Agent Smith's monologue about the first version of The Matrix, which was designed as a human utopia, a perfect world without suffering and with total happiness. Agent Smith explains that it was a disaster. No one accepted the program. Entire crops of people were lost. The machines had to amend their choice of programming in order to make people subservient to them, and so they conceived the Matrix in the image of the world in 1999. The world in 1999 was far from a utopia, but still humans accepted this over the suffering-less utopia. According to William Irwin, this is Kantian, because the machines wished to impose a perfect world on humans in an attempt to keep people content, so that they would remain completely submissive to the machines, both consciously and subconsciously. But humans were not easy to make content. Andrew Godosky of the popular film website Screened.com sees allusions to Christ, including Neo's virgin birth, his doubt in himself, and the prophecy of his coming, along with many other Christian references. Among these possible allusions, it is suggested that the name of the character Trinity refers to Christianity's doctrine of the Trinity. It has also been noted that the character Morpheus paraphrases the Chinese Taoist philosopher Xuangzi when he asks Neo, "Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you weren't able to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference from the real world and the dream world?" If you thought that the idea of living in a matrix was the product of the wild imaginations of filmmakers and/or theorists, you're about to be very surprised. These thoughts, ideas, and beliefs run a whole lot deeper than that. Simulated reality is the hypothesis that reality could be simulated, for example by quantum computer simulation, to a degree indistinguishable from true reality. It could contain conscious minds, which may or may not be fully aware that they are living inside a simulation. This is quite different from the current technologically achievable concept of virtual reality. Virtual reality is easily distinguished from the experience of actuality. Participants are never in doubt about the nature of what they experience. Simulated reality, by contrast, would be hard or impossible to separate from true reality. There has been much debate over this topic, ranging from philosophical discourse to practical applications in computing. A version of the simulation hypothesis was first theorized as a part of a philosophical argument on the part of René Descartes, and later by robotics expert Hans Moravec. The philosopher Nick Bostrom developed an expanded argument examining the probability of our reality being a simulation. His argument states that at least one of the following statements is very likely to be true. Number 1. Human civilization, or a comparable civilization, is unlikely to reach a level of technological maturity capable of producing simulated realities, or such simulations are physically impossible to construct. Number 2. A comparable civilization, reaching aforementioned technological status, will likely not produce a significant number of simulated realities, one that might push the probable existence of digital entities beyond the probable number of real entities in a universe, for any of a number of reasons, such as diversion of computational processing power for other tasks, or ethical considerations of holding entities captive in simulated realities. Number 3. Any entities with our general set of experiences are almost certainly living in a simulation. Number 4. We are living in a reality in which post-humans have not developed yet, and we are actually living in reality. Bostrom's argument rests on the premise that given sufficiently advanced technology, it is possible to represent the populated surface of the Earth without recourse to digital physics, that the qualia experienced by a simulated consciousness are comparable or equivalent to those of a naturally occurring human consciousness, and that one or more levels of simulation within simulations would be feasible given only a modest expenditure of computational resources in the real world. If one assumes first that humans will not be destroyed nor destroy themselves before developing such a technology, and that human descendants will have no overriding legal restrictions or moral compunctions against simulating biospheres or their own historical biosphere, then, Bostrom argues, it would be unreasonable to count ourselves among the small minority of genuine organisms who, sooner or later, will be vastly outnumbered by artificial simulations. Epistemologically, it is not impossible to tell whether we are living in a simulation. For example, Bostrom suggests that a window could pop up saying, "You are living in a simulation. Click here for more information." However, imperfections in a simulated environment might be difficult for the native inhabitants to identify, and for purposes of authenticity, even the simulated memory of a blatant revelation might be purged programmatically. Nonetheless, should any evidence come to light, either for or against the skeptical hypothesis, it would radically alter the aforementioned probability. Computationalism is a philosophy of mind theory stating that cognition is a form of computation. It is relevant to the simulation hypothesis in that it illustrates how a simulation could contain conscious subjects, as required by a virtual people simulation. For example, it is well known that physical systems can be simulated to some degree of accuracy. If computationalism is correct, and if there is no problem in generating artificial consciousness or cognition, it would establish the theoretical possibility of a simulated reality. Nevertheless, the relationship between cognition and phenomenal qualia of consciousness is disputed. It is possible that consciousness requires a vital substrate that a computer cannot provide, and that simulated people, while behaving appropriately, would be philosophical zombies. This would undermine Nick Bostrom's simulation argument. That is, we cannot be a simulated consciousness if consciousness as we know it cannot be simulated. The skeptical hypothesis remains intact, however, and we could still be invatted brains, existing as conscious beings within a simulated environment, even if consciousness cannot be simulated. It has been suggested that whereas virtual reality would enable a participant to experience only 3 senses, that is sight, sound and optionally smell, simulated reality would enable all 5, including taste and touch. Some theorists have argued that if the consciousness is computation version of computationalism and mathematical realism, or radical mathematical Platonism are true, then consciousness is computation, which in principle is platform independent and thus admits of simulation. This argument states that a Platonic realm or ultimate ensemble would contain every algorithm, including those which implement consciousness. Hans Moravec has explored the simulation hypothesis and has argued for a kind of mathematical Platonism according to which every object, including for example a stone, can be regarded as implementing every possible computation. A dream could be considered a type of simulation capable of fooling someone who is asleep. As a result, the dream hypothesis cannot be ruled out, although it has been argued that common sense and considerations of simplicity rule against it. One of the first philosophers to question the distinction between reality and dreams was Zhuangzi, a Chinese philosopher from the 4th century BC. He phrased the problem as the well-known butterfly dream, which went as follows. Once, Zhuangzi dreamt he was a butterfly flitting and fluttering around, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. He didn't know he was Zhuangzi. Suddenly he woke up and there he was, solid and unmistakable Zhuangzi. But he didn't know if he was Zhuangzi who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming he was Zhuangzi. Between Zhuangzi and a butterfly there must be some distinction. This is called the transformation of things. The philosophical underpinnings of this argument are also brought up by Descartes, who was one of the first Western philosophers to do so. In Meditations on First Philosophy, he states there are no certain indications by which we may clearly distinguish wakefulness from sleep, and goes on to conclude that it is possible that I am dreaming right now and that all of my perceptions are false. Both the dream argument and the simulation hypothesis can be regarded as skeptical hypotheses. However, in raising these doubts, just as Descartes noted that his own thinking led him to be convinced of his own existence, the existence of the argument itself is testament to the possibility of its own truth. Another state of mind, in which some argue an individual's perceptions have no physical basis in the real world, is called psychosis. Though psychosis may have a physical basis in the real world, and explanations vary. Known as the idea of nested simulations, the existence of simulated reality is seen to be unprovable in any concrete sense, as there is an infinite regress problem with the argument. That is, any evidence that is directly observed could be another simulation itself. Even if we are a simulated reality, there is no way to be sure the beings running the simulation are not themselves a simulation, and the operators of that simulation are not a simulation. In August 2019, philosopher Preston Green suggested that it may be best not to find out if we're living in a computer simulation, since if it were found to be true, such knowing may end the simulation. Some philosophers and authors tried to address the implications of the simulated reality on mankind's way of life and future. Simulated reality has significant implications to the philosophical questions, such as the questions of the existence of God and the meaning of life. There are attempts to link religion to the simulated reality. There's another possibility to be aware of in the quest to find the truth: Maya. Simply put, Maya is the power that allows the universe to manifest, to create the illusion of appearance in our world. Maya has multiple meanings in Indian philosophies depending on the context. In ancient Vedic literature, Maya literally implies extraordinary power and wisdom. In later Vedic texts and modern literature dedicated to Indian traditions, Maya connotes a magic show, an illusion where things appear to be present but are not what they seem. Maya is also a spiritual concept, connoting that which exists but is constantly changing and thus is spiritually unreal, and the power or the principle that conceals the true character of spiritual reality. In Buddhism, Maya is the name of Gautama Buddha's mother. In Hinduism, Maya is also an epithet for goddess, and the name of a manifestation of Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, prosperity and love. Maya is also a name for girls. According to Monier Williams, who was the second Bowdoin Professor of Sanskrit at Oxford University in England, Maya meant wisdom and extraordinary power in an earlier older language, but from the Vedic period onwards, the word came to mean illusion, unreality, deception, fraud, trick, sorcery, witchcraft and magic. However, P.D. Shastri, who was a senior leader of the Indian National Congress political party, states that the Monier-Williams list is a loose definition, misleading generalization, and not accurate in interpreting ancient Vedic and medieval-era Sanskrit texts. Instead, he suggests a more accurate meaning of Maya is appearance, not mere illusion. According to expert William Mahoney, the root of the word may be man, or to think, implying the role of imagination in the creation of the world. In early Vedic usage, Mahoney states, the term implies the wondrous and mysterious power to turn an idea into a physical reality. Franklin Southworth, an American linguist and Professor Emeritus of South Asian Linguistics at the University of Pennsylvania, states the word's origin is uncertain, and other possible roots of Maya include may, meaning mystify, confuse, intoxicate or delude, as well as mai, which means to disappear or be lost. The realism-driven Nyaya school of Hinduism denied that either the world or the soul are an illusion. Nyayikas developed theories of illusion, typically using the term mithya, and stated that illusion is simply flawed cognition, incomplete cognition, or the absence of cognition. There is no deception in the reality of Prakriti or Pradhana, the creative principle of matter or nature, only confusion or lack of comprehension or lack of cognitive effort, according to Nyaya scholars. To them, illusion has a cause that rules of reason and proper epistemology can uncover. Illusion, stated Nyayikas, involves the projection into current cognition of predicated content from memory, a form of rushing to interpret, judge, or conclude. This projection illusion is misplaced and stereotypes something to be what it is not. The insights on theory of illusion by Nyaya scholars were later adopted and applied by Advaita Vedanta scholars. Maya in yoga school is the manifested world and implies divine force. Yoga and Maya are two sides of the same coin, because what is referred to as Maya by living beings who are enveloped by it is yoga for the universal principle, or supreme soul, whose yogic perfection creates the Maya. Maya is neither illusion nor denial of perceived reality to the yoga scholars. Rather, yoga is a means to perfect the creative discipline of mind and body-mind force to transform Maya. The concept of yoga as power to create Maya has been adopted as a compound word Yogamaya by the theistic subschools of Hinduism. It occurs in various mythologies of the Puranas. For example, Shiva uses his Yogamaya to transform Markandeya's heart in Bhagavata Puranas chapter 12 verse 10, while Krishna counsels Arjuna about Yogamaya in hymn 7.25 of Bhagavad Gita. Maya is a prominent and commonly referred to concept in Vedanta philosophies. Maya is often translated as illusion in the sense of appearance. Human mind constructs a subjective experience, states Vedanta school, which leads to the peril of misunderstanding Maya as well as interpreting Maya as the only and final reality. Vedantins assert the perceived world, including people, are not what they appear to be. There are invisible principles and laws at work, true invisible nature in others and objects, and an invisible soul that one never perceives directly. But this invisible reality of self and soul exists, assert Vedanta scholars. Maya is that which manifests or perpetuates a sense of false duality or divisional plurality. This manifestation is real, but it obfuscates and eludes the hidden principles and true nature of reality. Vedanta school holds that liberation is the unfettered realization and understanding of these invisible principles. The self, that the self or soul in oneself is the same as the self in another and the self in everything. The difference within various sub-schools of Vedanta is the relationship between individual soul and cosmic soul. Non-theistic Advaita sub-school holds that both are one, that everyone is thus deeply connected oneness, and there is a God in everyone and everything, while theistic Dvaita and other sub-schools hold that individual souls and God's soul are distinct, and each person can at best love God constantly to get one's soul infinitely close to his soul. In Advaita Vedanta philosophy, there are two realities: Vyavaharika, or empirical reality, and Paramathika, which is absolute spiritual reality. Maya is the empirical reality that entangles consciousness. Maya has the power to create a bondage to the empirical world, preventing the unveiling of the true unitary self, the cosmic spirit also known as Brahman. The theory of Maya was developed by the 9th century Advaita Hindu philosopher Adi Shankara. However, competing theistic Dvaita scholars contested Shankara's theory and stated that Shankara did not offer a theory of the relationship between Brahman and Maya. A later Advaita scholar Prakasatman addressed this by explaining Maya and Brahman together constitute the entire universe, just like two kinds of interwoven threads create a fabric. Maya is the manifestation of the world, whereas Brahman, which supports Maya, is the cause of the world. Maya is a fact in that it is the appearance of phenomena. Since Brahman is the sole metaphysical truth, Maya is true in epistemological and empirical sense. However, Maya is not the metaphysical and spiritual truth. The spiritual truth is the truth forever, while what is empirical truth is only true for now. Since Maya is the perceived material world, it is true in perception context, but is untrue in spiritual context of Brahman. Maya is not false, it only clouds the inner self and principles that are real. True reality includes both Vyavaharika, or empirical, and spiritual, known as Paramarthika, the Maya, and the Brahman. The goal of spiritual enlightenment, state Advaitins, is to realize Brahman, realize the fearless, resplendent oneness. Vivekananda said, when the Hindu says the world is Maya, at once people get the idea that the world is an illusion. This interpretation has some basis, as coming through the Buddhistic philosophers, because there was one section of philosophers who did not believe in the external world at all. But the Maya of the Vedanta, in its last developed form, is neither idealism nor realism, nor is it a theory. It is a simple statement of fact, that is, what we are and what we see around us. The early Buddhist texts contain some references to illusion, the most well-known of which is the Phenapindupama Sutta in Pali, which states, "Suppose, monks, that a magician known as Mayakaro, or a magician's apprentice known as Mayakarantavasi, would display a magical illusion known as Mayam at a crossroads. A man with good sight would inspect it, ponder, and carefully investigate it, and it would appear to him to be void, hollow, and coreless. For what core could there be in a magical illusion? So too, monks, whatever kind of cognition there is, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, or far or near, a monk inspects it, ponders it, and carefully investigates it, and it would appear to him to be void, hollow, and coreless. For what core could there be in cognition?" One sutra in the Agama collection, known as the Mahasutras of the Mula-Sarvastivadin tradition entitled the Mayajala, the net of illusion deals especially with the themes of Maya. This sutra only survives in Tibetan translation and compares the 5 aggregates with further metaphors for illusion, including an echo, a reflection in a mirror, a mirage, a sense of pleasure in a dream, and a madman wandering naked. These texts give the impression that Maya refers to the insubstantial and essenceless nature of things, as well as their deceptive, false, and vain character. Later texts, such as the Lalita Vistara, also contain references to illusion. Complexes have no inner might, are empty in themselves, rather like the stem of the plantain tree, when one reflects on them, like an illusion which deludes the mind, like an empty fist with which a child is teased. The Salistamba Sutra also puts much emphasis on illusion, describing all dharmas as being characterized as illusory and vain, hollow, and without core. Likewise, the Mahavastu, a highly influential Mahasamgikan text on the life of the Buddha, states that the Buddha has shown that the aggregates are like a lightning flash, as a bubble, or as the white foam on a wave. In Theravada Buddhism, Maya is the name of the mother of the Buddha, as well as a metaphor for the consciousness aggregate. The Theravada monk Bhikkhu Bodhi considers the Pali Phenapindupama Sutta one of the most radical discourses on the empty nature of conditioned phenomena. Bodhi also cites the Pali commentary on this sutra, the Sarathapakasini, which states, "Cognition is like a magical illusion, in the sense that it is insubstantial and cannot be grasped. Cognition is even more transient and fleeting than a magical illusion, for it gives the impression that a person comes and goes, stands and sits, with the same mind, but the mind is different in each of these activities. Cognition deceives the multitude like a magical illusion." Likewise, Bhikkhu Katakurundi Nayananda Thera has written an expedition of the Kalakarama Sutta, which features the image of a magical illusion as its central metaphor. The Nayananusara Sastra, a Vaibhasika response to Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha, cites the Mayajala Sutra and explains, "Seeing an illusory object, although what one apprehends is unreal, is nothing more than an illusory sign. If one does not admit this much, then an illusory sign should be non-existent. What is an illusory sign? It is the result of illusion magic. Just as one with higher gnosis can magically create forms, likewise this illusory sign does actually have manifestation and shape. Being produced by illusion magic, it acts as the object of vision. That object which is taken as really existent is in fact ultimately non-existent. Therefore, this sutra states that it is non-existent due to the illusory object there is a sign but not substantiality. Being able to beguile and deceive one, it is known as a deceiver of the eye. In Mahayana Sutras, illusion is an important theme of the Prajnaparamita Sutras. Here, the magician's illusion exemplifies how people misunderstand and misperceive reality, which is in fact empty of any essence and cannot be grasped. The Mahayana uses similar metaphors for illusion, like magic, a dream, a bubble, a rainbow, lightning, the moon reflected in water, a mirage, and a city of celestial musicians. Understanding that what we experience is less substantial than we believe is intended to serve the purpose of liberation from ignorance, fear and clinging, and the attainment of enlightenment as a Buddha completely dedicated to the welfare of all beings. The Prajnaparamita texts also state that all dharmas known as phenomena are like an illusion, not just the 5 aggregates, but all beings, including bodhisattvas and even nirvana. The Prajnaparamita Ratnaguna Samkhayagatha states, "This gnosis shows him all beings as like an illusion, resembling a great crowd of people conjured up at the crossroads by a magician, who then cuts off many thousands of heads. He knows this whole living world as a magical creation, and yet remains without fear. Those who teach Dharma, and those who listen when it is being taught, those who have won the fruition of a worthy one, a solitary Buddha or a world saviour, and the nirvana obtained by the wise and learned, all is born of illusion, so has the Tathagata declared." Depending on the stage of the practitioner, the magical illusion is experienced differently. In the ordinary state, we get attached to our own mental phenomena, believing they are real, like the audience at a magic show gets attached to the illusion of a beautiful lady. At the next level, called actual relative truth, the beautiful lady appears, but the magician does not get attached. Lastly, at the ultimate level, the Buddha is not affected one way or the other by the illusion. Beyond conceptuality, the Buddha is neither attached nor non-attached. This is the middle way of Buddhism, which explicitly refutes the extremes of both eternalism and nihilism. Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka philosophy discusses namitta, or illusion closely related to Maya. In this example, the illusion is a self-awareness that is, like the magical illusion, mistaken. For Nagarjuna, the self is not the organizing command center of experience as we might think. Actually, it is just one element combined with other factors, and strung together in a sequence of casually connected moments in time. As such, the self is not substantially real, but neither can it be shown to be unreal. The continuum of moments, which we mistakenly understand to be a solid, unchanging self, still performs actions and undergoes their results. As a magician creates a magical illusion by the force of magic, and the illusion produces another illusion, in the same way the agent is a magical illusion, and the action done is the illusion created by another illusion. What we experience may be an illusion, but we are living inside the illusion and bear the fruits of our actions there. We undergo the experiences of the illusion. What we do affects what we experience, so it matters. In this example, Nagarjuna uses the magician's illusion to show that the self is not as real as it thinks, yet to the extent it is inside the illusion, real enough to warrant respecting the ways of the world. For the Mahayana Buddhist, the self is Maya like a magic show, and so are objects in the world. Vasubandhu's Trisvabhavanadesa, a Mahayana Yogacara mind-only text, discusses the example of the magician who makes a piece of wood appear as an elephant. The audience is looking at a piece of wood, but under the spell of magic, perceives an elephant instead. Instead of believing in the reality of the illusory elephant, we are invited to recognize that multiple factors are involved in creating that perception, including our involvement in dualistic subjectivity, causes and conditions, and the ultimate beyond duality. Recognizing how these factors combine to create what we perceive ordinarily, ultimate reality appears. Perceiving that the elephant is illusory is akin to seeing through the magical illusion which reveals the Dharma Dhatu, or ground of being. Buddhist Tantra, a further development of the Mahayana, also makes use of the magician's illusion example in yet another way. In the completion stage of Buddhist Tantra, the practitioner takes on the form of a deity in an illusory body known as the Maya Deha, which is like the magician's illusion. It is made of wind or prana and is called illusory because it appears only to other yogis who have also attained the illusory body. The illusory body has the markings and signs of a Buddha. There is an impure and a pure illusory body depending on the stage of the yogi's practice. The concept that the world is an illusion is controversial in Buddhism. The Buddha does not state that the world is an illusion, but like an illusion. In the Dzogchen tradition, the perceived reality is considered literally unreal, in that objects which make up perceived reality are known as objects within one's mind, and that, as we conceive them, there is no predetermined object, or assembly of objects in isolation from experience that may be considered the true object or objects. As a prominent contemporary teacher puts it, in a real sense, all the visions that we see in our lifetime are like a big dream. In this context, the term visions denotes not only visual perceptions, but appearances perceived through all senses, including sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile sensations. Maya in Jainism means appearances or deceit that prevents one from samyaktva, or right belief. Maya is one of three causes of failure to reach right belief. The other two are mithyatva, or false belief, and nidana, which is a hankering after fame and worldly pleasures. Maya is a closely related concept to mithyatva, with Maya a source of wrong information, while mithyatva is an individual's attitude to knowledge, with relational overlap. Svetambara Jains classify categories of false belief under mithyatva into 5. Abhigrahika, or false belief that is limited to one's own scriptures that one can defend, but refusing to study and analyze other scriptures. Anabhigrahita, which is the false belief that equal respect must be shown to all gods, teachers, and scriptures. Abhinivasika, which is the false belief resulting from preconceptions with a lack of discernment and refusal to do so. Samsayika, or the state of hesitation or uncertainty between various conflicting, inconsistent beliefs. And finally, anabhagika, which are innate, default false beliefs that a person has not thought through on one's own. Digambara Jains classify categories of false belief under mithyatva into 7. Ekantika, absolute one-sided false belief. Samsayika, which is uncertainty, doubt whether a course is right or wrong, unsettled belief or skepticism. Vainayika, which is the false belief that all gods, gurus and scriptures are alike without critical examination. Grahita, the false belief derived purely from habits or default, no self-analysis. Viparita, the false belief that true is false, false is true, and everything is relative or acceptable. Naisagika, the false belief that all living beings are devoid of consciousness and cannot discern right from wrong. And Mudadursti, the false belief that violence and anger can tarnish or damage thoughts, divine, guru, or dharma. Maya deceit is also considered as one of 4 kasaya, or faulty passion, a trigger for actions in Jain philosophy. The other 3 are krodha, which is anger, mana, which is pride, and lobha, which is greed. The ancient Jain texts recommend that one must subdue these 4 faults, as they are a source of bondage, attachment, and non-spiritual passions. In Sikhism, the world is regarded as both transitory and relatively real. God is viewed as the only reality, but within God exist both conscious souls and non-conscious objects. These created objects are also real. Natural phenomena are real, but the effects they generate are unreal. Maya is as the events are real, yet Maya is not as the effects are unreal. Sikhism believes that people are trapped in the world because of 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Maya enables these 5 vices and makes a person think the physical world is real, whereas the goal of Sikhism is to rid the self of them. Consider the following example. In the moonless night, a rope lying on the ground may be mistaken for a snake. We know that the rope alone is real, not the snake. However, the failure to perceive the rope gives rise to the false perception of the snake. Once the darkness is removed, the rope alone remains, and the snake disappears. There's a lot to take in, but then again, so is the world around us, and so is the way that the universe keeps pushing us. What do you believe? What is the correct path? Are they all the right paths? In the words of Morpheus in The Matrix, this is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and you can find out just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Make your choice.